Am I the asshole for putting a private conversation on loudspeaker which cost my brother his 18-year relationship? Okay guys, I'm extremely tired and it's been a long ass day, so please excuse any poor grammar or spelling mistakes. To begin, my brother Ben, 39 has been in a relationship with Abby, 39, 18 years. They've been engaged 8 years. They've nearly gotten married 3 years ago, but months before the wedding Ben chickened out. They went to therapy, and basically because our dad left us, he has issues with commitment. We thought over the last year he was finally gonna step up for Abby and be the partner she deserves. He did seem a bit anxious leading up to the big day, but assured everyone he was okay. Today they were meant to get married, but as Abby and us bridesmaids were about to enter the church, Ben was nowhere to be found. Everyone tried to calm her down, saying it was traffic or he probably had a monster hangover. Well, an hour passed, then 2, then 3, and then after the 4-hour mark, Abby said fuck, she was going back to the hotel. Call her when he landed. My family looked panicked and nervous, trying to get through to Ben or the groomsmen who had not arrived yet. My other brothers and brother-in-law's sister's husband went looking for him, thinking he got hurt or arrested the night before. I went back to the hotel with a very broken-looking Abby. We drank and ate food for another hour before I got a text from my brother-in-law saying they found him in a bar and they were trying to talk him into going to his own wedding. My sister rang her husband and heard him in the background. He was literally acting like a 5-year-old who didn't want to go to the doctor. Honestly guys, I had enough at this stage. He messed this girl about too long, and frankly leading someone along for 18 years is just cruel. So here is where I may be the asshole of the century. I walked into Abby's room and told her be quiet, then I rang my brother-in-law, put him on loudspeaker and asked him what was going on, then for him to put Ben on the phone. The drunk fool started saying shit like he didn't think she was the one and he is only with her because they've been together too long and he is scared to be alone. I let her hear everything. I won't lie, I felt like a monster when she started crying. Abby then grabbed the phone, told him he had 1 hour to get to the church or it was over for good. Long story short, Ben ended up at the church 20 minutes later and Abby took off her dress, then left the hotel alone. So he ended being left at the altar and she went on the honeymoon alone. I've been disowned by everyone except 2 siblings, sisters, and I had to get Abby's maid of honor to collect my suitcase from outside the hotel. Mom dumped out when she found out. I'm the full blame for ruining their relationship and 98% of my family hates me. Am I the asshole for telling my husband I won't be cooking for him anymore because of the comment he made? My husband doesn't know how to cook. He also not a fan of the food I cook for my country of origins. Seeing him living off fast food motivated me to learn to cook his family's common meals. It took me a while to get it done properly, but now I can cook an entire list of his favorite meals. He praises my cooking and encourages me to learn more. While we were eating dinner at his parents' house, I had to excuse myself to go wash my hands after I was done. I left the table and my husband was still eating. As I was making my way back, I heard his dad tell him to take it easy because he was eating a lot. He then asked my husband if I cook for him and if he eats well at home. My husband said that I do cook for him, but the food I make can only be fed to pigs, not humans. I was hurt and so offended. I showed up in front of him and told him I will no longer be cooking for him after this comment. He was turning in his seat as I walked right past him, took my purse and said I was headed home. He got back later saying it wasn't like that and that even if it was then I should be happy he still eats my food when it's still not perfect yet. He said he was trying to protect my feelings and I hurt him when I said I won't cook anymore. Am I the asshole for showing my husband proof that his mom offered to bring him steak dish to the hospital? My husband was in a car accident last week. He was staying at the hospital for his broken leg. Only me and his mom were there. His mom and I don't get along at all. He tells me I'm overreacting or paranoid whenever I point out how she's mistreating me. He complained about hospital food, saying it had no taste, and asked me to make his favorite meal, which is steak dish, and bring it to him at the hospital. Noting that steak isn't cheap where we live and I didn't have enough time to prepare it. I told him I will see what I can do. Then his mom said if I'm truly a supportive wife then I'd make it happen. Once we went outside his room, his mom's tone changed. She suddenly seemed nice and said that she could see how exhausted I was and so I should go home and not worry about the steak dish because she said she'd make it for him. I asked if she was 100% sure and she said absolutely. The next visit I showed up and my husband asked why I didn't bring the steak dish he asked for. I saw his mom there. I told him his mom offered to make it for him instead and told me not to worry about it. He didn't believe and was like, "Mom said that? I'm not buying it. Mom, you really said that?" Her reaction shocked me. She acted confused and said that I'm his wife and she didn't know why I'd expect her to perform my duties for me. I was confused and didn't know what to do. My husband seemed upset the entire visit and I waited till his mom left to talk. I swore to him his mom said she'd take care of it, but he said he didn't believe me. I pulled my phone out, called his mom and put her on speaker so he could hear the conversation. I said, "Didn't you say you'd make the steak dish and that I didn't have to worry about it?" She replied, "I did, But I obviously wasn't actually going to do it. I was just trying to help my son see how his wife is during the rough times. And you took the bait. My husband raised his eyebrows. He got pissed. He called her later and picked a fight, then said no more visiting. She lost it, called me petty and manipulative, and blasted me on Facebook saying I stopped her from seeing her son only because I couldn't get her to do things for me like cooking for my own husband. Now his family are criticizing me for this, which profession is criminally underpaid. Basically any profession that requires you to work with vulnerable people. Social workers. High-dollar educational costs with licensure for caseloads that are not humanely manageable safely and not enough money to eke out a living. Public defenders. I have a private law practice. The public defenders make a fraction of what guys like me make, know criminal law inside and out, and carry obscene caseloads. The system would break down immediately if they went on strike. Which honestly they should. I made $9.50 an hour as an EMT. Never ask why is there an EMS shortage around me, I will go off. Paramedics are paid jack. It's incredible. It's a job I could never ever do. Am I the asshole for throwing my sister and her son out of my house? I, 35M, am a single father of 3 boys, 10M, 7M and 3M. Their mother died last year due to ovarian cancer. It has been a rough year to say the least. My sister got divorced 6 months ago and temporarily moved in with me and the boys. She has a son, my nephew, 9M, who stays with us most of the time. My nephew and my 10-year-old are not the best of friends, but so far they got along fine apart from some teasing from both sides. A few weeks ago my 10-year-old started telling me that his cousin was bullying him and being mean to him. He called him names, pushed him around, took his video games etc. I talked to my sister many times and told her to talk to her son. We talked to the boys together and things settled down. Yesterday was my 3-year-old's birthday, so my whole family was here and my late wife's family as well. It was extremely emotional for everyone, because it was the first birthday since my wife's been gone. The boys, 10-year-old and 9-year-old, started fighting again and I asked them both to calm down and behave. My son started crying and told me his cousin teased him about him not having a mom. I choked up and asked my nephew if that was true, and he said yes, but that he's sorry. I figured I'd have a proper talk with him and my sister after the party, so I just told him what he said was really awful and he cannot say it again. I comforted my son and we went back to the party. Before we cut the cake, my sister came yelling at me, saying I had no business disciplining her child. I told her to drop it and we'll talk later. Instead she said, besides, he's right, kids need a mom. I had tears in my eyes by that time and she just said, see, it's even turning you into a poo. Why? My in-laws were crying, I was tearing up, the kids were upset, just awful. I told her to stop it and just leave me and the kids and the family to cut the cake and we will talk in the evening. She said, listen, we both lost our spouses, but at least I'm still a normal person. She stormed off. After the party I told her she has 2 days to pack her shit and leave. She is begging me not to throw her out, because she and her kid will be homeless. Am I the asshole for throwing her out? Am I the asshole for giving my husband 1 day to return the bracelet that he took from his daughter's mom? It's a bit complicated, so bear with me. I have 34, have been with my husband M37 for 2 years, he has a 9-year-old daughter with his ex-wife, Nora, and the reason for the divorce was financial. But she told me he initiated after she got diagnosed with cancer. Now cancer has come back and I feel sorry for her because she's a decent woman overall. Due to treatment schedule Nora only gets visitation with my stepdaughter for now. My husband drives my stepdaughter to see her mom 2 days a week. Yesterday he came home saying Nora wasn't home and he and my stepdaughter had to leave after waiting for an hour. He then went into the bedroom, stayed there for some time, then went out to visit his friend. I was cleaning the bedroom and found a gold bracelet that looked familiar. I realized it belonged to Nora as I'd seen her wear it before. I was confused. I waited till he got home to ask him about it. His reaction wasn't good. He lashed out and took it out of my hand saying I shouldn't touch his personal stuff. I said this wasn't his stuff, this is Nora's. I asked if he took this bracelet behind her back and he said no. Nora gave it to him so he could give it to their daughter once she's 20 in case something happens to Nora. I don't know why, but I didn't believe him. I told him I would call Nora to ask her, but he started yelling at me to stay out of his family business. We started arguing and I kept demanding he tell me how and why he got this bracelet. He refused to say anything first, then he admitted going into Nora's room and taking it while she was out. I told him this wasn't okay, but he said this was his right after he spent money on her treatment before but never got his money back. I was shocked by this statement. They were married back then and he shouldn't expect to be repaid. I got mad and told him he has 1 day to return the bracelet or I'll tell Nora and let her involve the authorities if she had to, cause the bracelet looked heavy and pricey. He begged me to stay out of it but I refused. He said I was being malicious and should side with him, not threaten him, but I refused to negotiate anything, and I'm responsible for my word now. Nora is a decent woman who's struggling, and I feel like she should know she can't trust her own daughter's father in her home after this. He said if I go through with this then this will ruin our relationship so badly, but I said I'm still standing by my word. Am I the asshole?
Wasn't ready, didn't look for something new. I was out with my friends the night that I met you. You looked so handsome, thought you were someone's boo. That was until you showed me that you wanted me to. Ooh, what's happening? Ooh, what's happening? This feeling, this feeling, I'm messing up in my head. This feeling, this feeling, I'm messing up in my head. This feeling.
Am I the asshole for getting upset with my husband after he told me nothing will change while I am pregnant? Throwaway account. So me, 26F, and my husband, 28M, who I'll call Jake for this story, have been together for 5 years and married for 3. We have recently started trying for a baby as we both felt like that was the next step in our life together, and 3 weeks ago I got a positive test back. We were really happy and told our families, and now my mom and mother-in-law want to throw a big baby shower for us. It was just super good news all around. Well, 2 nights ago me and Jake were getting ready for bed when he reminds me to go through the house and make sure all the lights are off. Now he can be a little lazy at times, and it has become a nightly routine for me to make sure all the lights are off that he leaves on before we go to bed. I wasn't feeling very well and asked if he could just do it since he wasn't doing anything and was literally standing by the door. He then tells me no, this is what is expected of you every night. I was a little hurt, but I didn't want to fight with him, so I just did it. When I came back, Jake goes on this very long and unprovoked rant saying things like just because you are pregnant does not mean anything will change, and you are still expected to cook, clean, and do all the chores every day because how can you be expected to be a mother if you can't handle a little work? He wasn't yelling or anything, he was talking to me quietly like he was 2 inches tall. I was shocked because I had never heard him say anything like this. The rant went on for about 30 minutes before I interjected and asked, well, what do you plan on doing to help me with all of this? He then got extremely defensive, saying he works his ass off at his job to provide for me and what is going to be our future children. For context, I don't work ATM. My job was not paying enough to justify me going, so I am a full-time college student. He ended by saying that it doesn't matter how I feel physically or mentally, it is a mother's job to push through. And if he helped and babied me I wouldn't be a good mother. I got extremely upset and started yelling, and I said that I wish I would have known this is how you felt before I got pregnant with your baby. There was a moment of silence before he started crying and he left for the night to stay at his mother's house. He hasn't been back yet, and my mill and Sil have called me berating me and saying I broke Jake's heart with what I said and I need to apologize immediately, and until I do he isn't coming home. I don't know how to feel. So am I the asshole for yelling at my husband after he said he isn't helping me with anything during the pregnancy because it's a mother's job to deal with it?